Hi, welcome to another episode of TakChek or PekChek.
I'm Weiren,
I'm Nicholas.
and together we're an education lifestyle podcast where each week we take a topic and we discuss it. And at the end of the podcast, we decide whether or not the topic is interesting, which is
TakChek
or frustrating, which is
PekChek.
right. So for today, there has been this particular debate going around of a particular student from a while back asking about the minister at the time, right, of the relevance of the SAP. So the thing here is, we're not going to be talking about like the minister or what happened, that particular incident.
Okay.
But today, I think let's just talk about the SAP program first.
The history.
The history first,
Yep.
and what is the main motivation behind this SAP program first. So I think in the 50s and 60s, like post-independence, I think there was this very, very strong push for English to be our first language, right? In Singapore. And I think this led to the closure of quite a number of vernacular schools, or rather Chinese medium schools, right? So the thing here is, over time as well, I think for the PSLE students, most of the top scorers ended up being from the English-based schools as well. So as a result, parents will tend to want to send their kids more to the English-based schools. And I think around the 70s also, Nanyang University or Nanta at the time decided to switch their language of instruction mainly to English. The reason is because of their graduates being educated mainly in Chinese had difficulty finding better paying jobs. So I think with all of these factors, right, I think this led to, at the time, a large number of parents wanting to send their kids over to the more English-based schools. And I think at the time, I think in 1978, there was a particular press conference with Lee Kuan Yew, where Lee Kuan Yew actually said that, this is not good, all right? We want to be able to preserve certain things like Chinese culture and certain aspects of Chinese culture, which is I think desirable, like things like discipline, respect, and whatnot. This led to the eventual formation and pushing out of this SAP program, which started in 1979. And I think from there, right, what the Ministry of Education did, if I'm not wrong, they designated certain schools as SAP schools, or they provided additional resources, additional funding to certain schools. And I think the initial schools were, I believe, a few like, what was it?
There was Anglican High,
Anglican High,
Catholic High,
Cat High, Dunman, I think.
yes, there's Dunman, and the now defunct Chinese High, which is now Hwa Chong. There's Chongqing High, Dunman Government. All right, Mary Stella, Nanyang Girls High School, River Valley.
Nix as well, I believe.
Saint Nick's, yes.
Yeah. So these schools got additional funding for Chinese language programs. I think these schools, they received their first batch of SAP students. And I think after the first batch of SAP students actually went on to go and take their O-levels, they ended up doing quite well. Yeah. And I think when you listed off those schools, right, they're all pretty atas schools, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think the thing here is that was then, right? But because I think we just go into the crux of the matter Like, what do you think about SAP schools as it is today?
So maybe before we talk about this sentiments itself, I do want to add that the whole SAP actually got launched via secondary schools, whatever you just mentioned.
Yes.
Yep. And it was later on in 1989 that now they brought it down towards the primary school level. So there was primary schools level from there. And I think one thing that I will want to mention, the sentiments here, as mentioned by you, is that there's a general shift in parents then sending their kids over for English-based schools. And I think then Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew was just concerned about the erosion of all these Chinese-based values if everyone were to flock over towards the English-based schools. And I think one thing to add also might not really be relevant for today's time, but in the 2005, right, there was also the rise of the Chinese economy. We're talking about China being a strong powerhouse. And because of that, there was actually the bicultural studies program that was actually established in these 3 other SAP schools. So you already have your SAP schools, but within the SAP schools, there's these 3 of these SAP schools, they have a bicultural study program.
It's the extra special
You are
assistance
special,
plan.
but you're SAP of the SAPs really, you know. And their agenda there was really to nurture the best bilingual student to be effective bicultural professionals with the main agenda of being able to communicate and also to effectively engage with the Chinese from China itself.
I think we cannot deny that at the time Lee Kuan Yew probably foresaw the rise of China already, right? Yeah, and I think that's the reason why he's pushing for this SAP.
Correct. And I mean, now having a step back, you know, we're now wearing very good vision and going step back. I think that he recognized that Singapore at the end of it, we're still a very dependent country on others because the land scarcity and our natural resources is really just people itself. And if you want to really make people to be effective communicators with a rising powerhouse, I think this move preemptively put us in a very comfortable position to deal with people from that. But in today's world, we're now in 2025 itself, the sentiments itself from SAP has always sit a little bit unease with me. All right. So I don't know if this is the right word to use it, but I think it breeds certain degree of nepotism. I feel so. So I give you a little bit of an example over here. So let's say I'm now sending my kid over for primary school. Right. My first concern here as a informed parent, okay, I'm not tiger by any level, but minimally I will want to make sure that my kid has ease of getting to school, whether is it logistically, all right? So whether I can transport him or her, whether he or her is getting like a short walk to school. That's my first primary concern because I don't want commuting to be a big part of my child's time in school. The next thing will also largely be with respect to what is this school that I'm sending my kid to, what is the culture, what is the environment over there, all right? So I want to choose something that's maybe a little bit more aligned with me, all right? And we can't also take away the whole sentiments of if that is my alma mater. Like, this is really something my school, I want to bring my kid back to where my school is. Okay, so here comes the pragmatic part of things is that, hey, is this school affiliated to any other secondary schools? Okay, and I think that this kind of thoughts is very unique to Singaporeans. Because I mean, maybe I'm very ill-informed, but which other places will enter a school based off what kind of prospectus does it get you into the ease in getting into the next level?
Actually, I'm aware in Japan there are a lot of these kinds of schools.
But why are there the need for you to have affiliation? Are you trying, number one, to gatekeep the student in that ecosystem?
I think that's the idea, right? You want to create a little subculture.
Okay, but this really just in our previous podcast, this really just brings on a very great divide at a very young age.
Yes.
Like you gatekeep everyone in the same place. All right, so affiliation to me is already something that I'm a little bit uneasy already. All right, so if let's say I really don't like this school, but if I know that XYZ is affiliated to ABC, okay, I'm more inclined to send my kid over to that school. Okay, so at a certain level, is it me telling myself that, hey, you know what, I am okay if my kid is not competent in academic results, but now we got this discount, we can make it easier to the next level. But what if my kid is actually pretty competent itself, and having this discount and gatekeep them into a particular community, and you know, because you're going to spend most of your early 16 years of your life in a school environment, you gatekeep them. So affiliation is one thing. The next thing here, we're going to slap on the GP program. All right, I want schools that has a certain notations on it. And I think every podcast we did mention that GP program is going to be a bit more normalized. We're going to distribute out into the various schools. So which I think is a good initiative. And now we slap on the SAP program. So there are many layers whereby I feel that it polarizes a parent's intention to get the kid into a certain school like it should be based off, you know, your alignment with the school, but not so much of the prestige as well as the labels that comes together with it. So I'm worried, and with the declining birth rate, all right, this is a very touchy topic. If let's say the general populace of the students is dropping down, then do we still need all these special assistant plan schools whereby can we just distribute the resources equally? You know, in MOE we have this third language center, right?
Yes.
You're having those kind of very uncommon mother tongue.
Yes.
We're talking about Gujarati, we're talking about Telugu and Hindi and whatsoever. They go to all these places. So rather than having a holding school, all right, a special school for SAP, why can't students who are selected, right, that are targeted, that are highlighted to go to all these schools instead, or rather than have an institution to house all these students? Yep. Yeah. So what do you think about that? I mean, I felt that this was this SAP thing. It's something that I feel that resources like that, while tackling a low birth rate, could be distributed to benefit a greater population of students. And do you feel like should we let students into SAP school based off the virtue of interest rather than meritocracy, like, oh, I'm doing very well, that's why I get filtered into all this school, rather than I have a general interest in the Chinese culture?
Yeah, I think that for students who go to these secondary schools, right, I do feel that yes, the family plays a part. But of course, if let's say you're some other race, right, I think it's very, very unlikely that you will end up in an SAP school in the first place. So I do think that if you are Chinese, okay, you will probably be more interested in Chinese culture as well. So I do think that interest does play a role in getting a student to want to choose an SAP school for their PSLE, you know, their 6 choices. For me, I personally can see that, yes, perhaps at the time, SAP schools did fulfill their role. All right. But I think this debate on the relevance of SAP schools has been going on for very, very long already. I think even in the 2000s, people were talking about it. When I was in JC, people were talking about it already. Like, why are you being unfair to Chinese when Singapore is a multicultural society? But even in 2000s, right, I believe that the Ministry of Education was pumping additional resources into these SAP schools and designating more SAP schools, in fact. I think a while back, there was a question asked by an MP. I think this was when in 2021. Okay. Patrick Tay, who is the MP of Pioneer SMC at the time, posed a question to the Minister of Education. Response is that, we still need our SAP schools. All right. And SAP schools are uniquely positioned to immerse students in the rich Chinese culture and language. All right. And SAP schools have evolved over the years to be able to navigate our multicultural society. All right. So I think there is no clear direction by the ministry that they wish to do away with this entire SAP program.
And if I might add, I mean, for the listeners out there, it's not that the ministry haven't done anything for our Tamil speaking and Malay speaking community. So their particular rebuttal over here, I mean, eventually there will be the sentiments that SAP is basically just Chinese assistant plan. It has a bit of that sentiment because it's just immersion in China culture. So the ministry did mention that they are, for the Malay and the Tamil language, whose the population of learners is smaller, they have introduced elective program in Malay languages for secondary schools and national elective Tamil language program. They have a similar aim, for a profile of students with deep understanding and appreciation of the respective language and culture. I think one thing that I want to signal over here to the listeners is that you can't learn a language for the language, but it's necessary that it is come interlaced with the culture of the language itself. So something that I think if for the Tamil speaking and the Malay speaking population, I will feel like, why can't I have a school for me? So I have SAP for speaking Tamil, I have SAP for the Malay. Why can't I do that? So in this case, like what you have mentioned, the whole gatekeeping community, you will have 1 or 2 students of another race that's non-Chinese to be in an SAP school. So I feel in these particular circumstances,
we may have fewer students, but why can't we just have that? one school
Yes,
for Malay people or
exactly.
one school for
Yes.
Tamil people, right?
Yes. Just does the population really is a very loud voice in signaling whether you can have such a special arrangement or not. So if let's say I have 10 students, why can't I just congregate them into like another school, you know?
And I think the question here is if the ministry can run programs for like a Malay elective program or a Tamil elective program, you can flow this down to the Chinese programs as well, right? And then we can make like a Chinese elective program as well to be distributed amongst all the schools.
Yes, that's the direction I'm saying. We distribute state agenda. Okay, it might not be as specialized, all right, but you are distributing your sentiments, your experiences, and you distribute it to various schools. So you make it more communal. Everyone has access to that, and that's why I started out by asking why is SAP being gatekept by meritocracy? I thought it should be by interest. It's not like, oh, if I'm the top 10% scoring from PSI, okay, now I have access to SAP. Like, it should be like, why can't we do it like bending? Like in the case of like your subject-based bending. If let's say I am not good in, let's say, math, but I show a general good proficiency in Chinese and I show that there's good aptitude in it, can't I be offered SAP-based program on like my subject-based bending level?
Yeah, but my personal thoughts is that if let's say you do this at an institution-wide level, then I think there's going to be something wrong already. You still like, so I think one of the main criticisms with SAP is that students who go into SAP schools, they end up not being exposed to the other races. Right, and as a result, things like stereotypes and insensitivities to the problems and challenges faced by other races will occur.
But to rebut that, I mean, the ministry did mention that SAP schools, they recognize that this is a potential sentiment that's shared by the public, and they actually plan regular and sustained external programs for their students to forge bonds across communities.
Right, I think this is a very like superficial
it's like
thing, right?
There's a hole on the wall and you just slap the plaster over it.
Yeah, it's a very superficial thing, right? You go and I met up with a Malay guy today, then I met up with an Indian person today.
But
then yay, yeah.
No, but I again,
fantastic. This is completely different from I literally spend every single day sitting next to this Malay friend of mine, and then I go through thick and thin together. I kena hantam by the same like school teacher together, right? And then I share my problems with my
so basically
Malay or Indian
this
friend.
like NS like NS is a very good example of that, right? Because
exactly.
you are forced to come into a community like that.
And I think in Singapore we cannot deny that I think there is some level of discrimination, and we cannot deny that there is some level of racism and some level of discrimination, be it institutionalized or non-institutionalized. And I think over the years, I have had Malay Indian friends who have shared with me their struggles being an Indian, being a Malay, right? So these are things which I feel that everybody has to, at least for us as the majority race, as Chinese people, we have to be aware of this so that moving forward we can make things better.
Okay.
Right?
Okay, so I truly understand where you're coming from, and I feel that this, so long that we make programs out like GEP, SAPs, and in a very, very old time, I think it's at a time there was a special stream, the express stream, the NAs, the NPUs. I think so long you slap on various degree of monocle, there's going to be a certain degree of gatekeeping really.
Yes.
Yeah. And would it truly be very harmful if, let's say, all schools are just schools and the only thing that varies between schools are the locations? Is it a very harmful way that schools are to be positioned?
I think there is still a place for different schools to have their own internal culture.
Okay.
I think there is something to be said of certain schools training people in a particular way or emphasizing a particular trait of the human character that they wish to develop, right?
Okay, so if let's say I have example over here, if let's say the schools itself pride themselves on being a very sports-like school. So let's say we use a Singapore sports school itself, okay? I think there is virtue and value in them because they cater the education regime based off the athletic scheduling of trainings and all. So that itself, I don't feel is gatekeeping. You're really bringing all the athletes together into one school and then you manage your program for them. But what I can't sit in over here is that if we are okay with all the athletes coming together into one school in Singapore sports school, then what's wrong in bring all the top few students of each cohort, bring them into SAP schools? Like I'm trying to see both sides of the things. And what if the top few students in the cohort for PSLE turns out to be non-Chinese speaking? Are they now being forced to learn Chinese culture as well?
Exactly, right.
And what is there to say that good grades means I generally want to learn about the Chinese culture? I mean, what if my good grades come from my general interest in science and mathematics? I mean, we have the NUS high school diploma route and all. So the thing is that with all this different kind of moniker, my main worry over here is that there's a certain degree of reinforcement of elitism. And I think this is something that I'm very, very fearful about. And we don't need that many layers of social stratification. You know, now I stay in this neighborhood. Now I go to this school. Now I go to this hard to get in enrichment. Now I get into this particular CCA. Now I'm in this particular secondary school. So is it healthy to put on so much label and badges onto our young generation such that when they eventually grow up, they are saying hi to each other, they're exchanging accolades like, hey, I got this, you only got this, and because I'm like that, you're like I feel like you stratified them too earlier on in life, and when they finally come together, work together and all, that it just reinforces elitism itself from there. And I feel that students of young age, they do not learn humility as well as when they are older. So they will just take the badge and wear it very proudly. It's like, hey, I got this, you don't have that. So I don't know, will this also then push genuine friendship away from them? Because if I come to you and let's say myself, I'm just a regular run-of-the-mill student, and then you're slapped on with all these shiny badges like you're from this school, that school, blah, blah, blah. Like, would I feel like you're very unapproachable? And because of that, it gatekeep relationships from there. So the whole elitism thing, it scares me a little bit. And with all the labels, it will just promote elitism, whether is it the intention or not the intention of it. And do you really feel, okay, maybe the listeners have to be aware first, what is the benefit of going to a SAP school? And how does it help me in my JC, JE? Do you know that?
To be honest, I really feel that the main benefit is just additional Chinese culture education.
Okay.
I think one of the good things is that on top of additional Chinese language education, SAP schools all happen to be good schools or more atas schools. So if there are more atas schools, then they receive more funding. Then I suppose resources wise, they have more programs, right? Students from these schools will get additional opportunities. So that is the core. I don't think it's a direct. I don't think it's a direct benefit of being in the SAP program because there are other good schools out there, or good or better, more atas, well-funded schools out there, which also are not SAP affiliated, right? So I do think that the main idea here behind the SAP schools is really Chinese. Chinese.
But don't you feel like, and I think that this is a very, very scary side effect, is that is this in a way, if we don't deal with this whole sentiments of SAP, I mean, I think everyone is getting a bit more woke, everyone starts to evaluate policies a little bit more. I mean, the general population of Singapore seems to be more interested in politics now, policies. And the scary thing is that will this create a hierarchy of cultures within the national narrative, like Chinese culture more important, Tamil culture another time, Malay culture, like, it's actually a very, very scary thing, because we pride ourselves on being a melding pot of different races coming together, and then now the education program, which is something that the general population have to go through, it's like a crack at this particular narrative. Like, hey, only got SAP for Chinese, or then because your population is small, okay, you can.
So I used to work in an SAP school. Just sharing a personal anecdote here. So I used to work in an SAP school. And some of the people there are actually alumni from that school. And they commented to me, like, last time, right? Really, he lamented to me the fact that in the past, really, during recess, right, everybody is speaking Chinese. Then now, like nobody is speaking Chinese, or maybe half the people are speaking Chinese.
Okay.
Right. So I think in today's day and age, I think there are two ways to look at it, right? On one hand, you think of it as if people are not speaking Chinese in the first place, why do we call this an SAP school? Like if people are not like immersing themselves in being completely Chinese, what's the point of having this SAP school? But I think the other way to look at it is if if the students are speaking Chinese less, all the more we should reinforce this.
Have more SAP.
Yeah, have more SAP, reinforce this Chinese-ness, right?
But maybe they are just bilingual proficiently, but
yes, I believe most of the students in the school
but they just the method
bilingual.
of communication. Okay, again for the listeners, if you have kids playing Mobile Legend, all right, on the phone. Mobile Legend is a very popular game that they play on cell phone. All right, kids that I know of, they will gather around. It's like an online kind of arena game. All the skills in those games are all worded in English. And things like, can you? They will have words like, can you do CC? CC in this case called crowd control. You slow that. How do you say CC in Chinese? in a very short form of time.
Yes.
So it's sometimes also the relevancy of Chinese in some of the things that the students are doing. They don't do it. And maybe I'm not being exposed sufficiently. I believe that there is a China version of MLBB, or Mobile Legends, where I think it's called 王者荣耀. And I'm sure that when you're playing 王者荣耀, you won't use Chinese instead. You won't use English instead. You will use Chinese instead.
Yeah.
It's just certain activities that are predominantly worded in a certain language. You will partake in the language itself from there.
Okay.
So, Viren, I just want to ask over here, if let's say SAP is here to stay, all right, and I think it's not in our place to catalyze SAP removal and all, if it's being here to stay, do you feel like there could be certain thing that we can modify the acceptance of students into SAP instead, to make it feel like it's generally more accepting, rather than it's just meritocracy and you must learn Chinese itself, a deeper understanding of Chinese language? If I were to broaden the entry criteria, like just now what I mentioned, like you are doing pretty decent in other subjects, but you're not like the top 10% of the cohort for PSI and whatsoever, but you have a general interest in SAP, can I enter the school on an interview base itself and to show that, because I love this so much, the immersion into China culture, can you admit me? Can you leave a special space for me?
I think this is something to work on. I think this is generally, I personally feel that it's not a bad starting point for an idea. I do think that if SAP schools are here to stay, I do think that in order to attract more non-Chinese people to be attracted towards SAP schools, then I think assistance for the other races' mother tongue, like Malay or Tamil, can be given, right? Additional assistance within these schools. Maybe don't just have Chinese language only. You hire some Malay teachers, you hire some Tamil teachers to teach within the school. But I think with the understanding that certain programs will be in Chinese, or maybe you take Chinese classes along with, or maybe some bridging Chinese classes as well.
So this is not being gatekept to the Chinese community.
Yes.
So generally, if you are of the other races and Chinese might not be your first language, but if something
But if you are interested in if you're interested to learn more about Chinese culture, especially, I mean, given the global situation as it is, China now is a global superpower, then yes, right? But I think on the flip side, we can also think like, shouldn't this initiative be pushed to the regular schools as well, for the other languages and the other basically the other languages and the other cultures, right? So whenever I go and talk to Malaysians, I know because I used to study overseas, right? Whenever I talk to Malaysians, it really impresses me how truly multicultural they are. They can speak Chinese, they can speak their dialect, they can speak English, and they're fluent in Malay. They're fluent in at least 4 different languages, So to me, right, even though Singapore, our national language is supposed to be Malay, right? I'm a bit,
I can't.
yeah, I cannot.
I can
Right.
order nasi padang, but that's my level of process.
And to me, it shames me, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I try to go to Duolingo to go and learn, but Duolingo doesn't really have Malay. They have Bahasa Indonesia.
Yeah.
But I mean, I go to Duolingo to try to learn a little bit. It shames me, you know, that whenever I cross the border, that I don't know that much Malay at all, right?
So if let's say we did like the Malay elective program and Tamil elective program, we do the same thing for Chinese elective program. And then like just now what we mentioned, we flow this to the general population of other schools. Do you think this will eventually try to diffuse the whole sentiment of SAP being a very elite kind of a course?
I think it would. I think it would, right? And it's not such of a de-elevation of the SAP status as an elite school, rather than an elevation of the other schools to be on par with the SAP schools.
Okay.
Right?
Then why would I still want to go to the SAP school? Because
Exactly, right.
But
Exactly. So at some point, and I think this is all about changing mindsets and changing cultures, So eventually, I think Chongqing will just be another school, or maybe Daman will just be another school. Maybe with their own certain unique flavor within the school. Maybe the Chongqing students or Daman High students or St. Nick's girls, they may have their own unique flavor of school culture. But I hope that in future they won't see themselves as, I am an SAP school, right?
Okay, but again, this is a very generational thing, because the current generational of students and parents would think that this SAP moniker, this badge on them is a glowing badge.
Yeah, but I mean, to me, when people tell me like, I come from an SAP school, I don't have any.
But it's just that from there,
in my head, I'm thinking like, so what?
Yeah, but to them, it's like they want you to know that, hey, I only got into the school because I did very well at an earlier part of my life itself from there. So
I don't know. To me, it's like, okay, you good in Chinese. Like, okay, fine.
So I think the SAP program here I think it started on with a very strong historical reasoning.
Need
That's
strong historical need,
because we are just afraid that we lost our roots I mean, for the Chinese So, and also we did mention a number of times that China has become quite a global player, and you want to be making sure that we are giving our people the opportunity as well as a skill set to be able to communicate and liaise with them, so that there's more opportunities All right.
I think like over the years, Singapore has had 60 years of independence already. I think for us as Singaporeans, we have essentially forged our own identity, our own culture, which is frankly quite distinct from China, right? I think most of our citizens here, at least we have maybe 2 or 3 generations removed where they actually came from China, even the Chinese people, right? So I think I personally feel that it's time to just take a good, long and hard look at the SAP program and see how we can make it more inclusive.
Yeah, because now I feel that if it's here to stay, but and it cannot be removed, it has to evolve to really address the concerns of what I mentioned, I think, in this podcast, that it seems that now it's a very exclusive kind of a thing. All right, and I don't think this is the sentiments it is trying to breed, but to general people, they feel that it has a certain flavor of elitism to it, and most importantly, the relevancy of it. All right, and like what you mentioned, it used to be in the school canteens, everyone is speaking Chinese, but now only half of them is speaking Chinese, and also, they can practice it bilingually, but really, is there a need to have this institution just to cater to?
And I want to add, of the half that they are speaking Chinese, right? I think they're mainly trying to converse with the China students who are coming up from overseas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So balancing cultural preservation with national cohesion is going to be very challenging. So cultural preservation is that we want to make sure that the Chinese culture is preserved. We want the values and all. And I just want to say, it's not that only Chinese has good sentiments and values. I'm sure most cultures that thrive here, they still have a deep settled root of values, which are mostly aligned. think about things like filial piety, loyalty, discipline. And I think this is not just unique to the Chinese culture. And then this has to be in alignment with national cohesion, because Singapore, we are in this very unique position, all right? We are in a melding pot whereby there's different races and religion. We can coexist very naturally itself from there, all right? And I think this is going to be the key challenge. If the SAP is here to stay, we have to really have a very deep and hard look into it and see how we will want to modify it to make sure that it still
fulfills the criteria of cultural inclusion and helps us forge our national identity a little bit better.
Yep. Yeah. So for our listeners out there, all right, before we conclude, let me just ask you, okay, do you feel today is a very TakChek or very PekChek kind of topic?
I think our views for today is quite clear, right? Like both of us, we are quite aligned.
I'm on the PekChek side, lah.
We are both on the PekChek side.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. And why do you think it's on the PekChek side of things?
Yeah, because I have always thought that it's not that SAP doesn't have a place. It's just that I think that the whole idea and whole existence of an SAP school in the first place runs contrary to us embracing multiculturalism. We are trying to draw lines in the sand, and we're trying to say like, oh, okay, this is a place for Chinese people, right? And to me, I don't like that lah. I don't feel that this is something that would sit well with people from the other races, right? I don't like this whole idea of exclusivity. I would rather be more inclusive rather than exclusive. Yeah.
So I think when we draw lines along racial itself, then that's where whatever that we have fought hard to make sure that everyone coexists and in a very cohesive environment, all these are small little things that might fracture this very delicate balance over here.
Yes.
And like I say, while the sentiments and the reasons of having SAP is wholesome itself, I feel that in current time it has to adapt and to make sure that we make this available to the general population, not via meritocracy, but generally through interest and passion in a particular thing. It's like if I'm telling that you can only practice ballet if you are of a certain height and weight. Then I feel it's not very, very inclusive. Like, you should practice ballet because you have an interest in ballet, but not because I met the criteria to be able to practice ballet for that. So for the listeners out there, if you have kids in SAP schools, or SAP schools itself influence your thought on which schools you want to send your kids to, we do want to know why. Is this more of like a cultural thing to you? You want your kid to be in this very immersive, Chinese environment culture to learn more about culture, or more of like what I say in this case here, the monocle that comes with it, that this is like a prestige and a very good branding for your child itself from there. All right. Thank you.